Zachary Brown, local spearfish music artist, currently known as Zeis, but a history of different projects, bands, names, and a few different locations. 30-year-old from Beaufort, South Carolina, has a huge music history, but it all started as a child.
My first cassette tape was MC Hammer. My mom gave it to me, I think. And ever since then, I guess it started with hip hop. And then she also raised me on MTV since I was in the high chair. And then I ended up, as soon as I could walk, I started dancing to Guns N' Roses and Heart. Anything. Those were the main two.
One of Zach's biggest inspirations and influences on his music has always been Madonna, but his first impression of the popular pop star was not always so positive.
Madonna, Like a Prayer, when that video came out, it scared me, so I'd always run to my mom, because it had some creepy visuals of crosses burning.
Though Zach was constantly watching MTV and listening to music, he didn't try the art form himself until around age 12.
6th grade, I joined, God, what was it? It was a mixture of choir and dance, but we were only singing like pop songs. Like we sang I Believe I Could Fly, and I Believe I Can Fly. I don't think that's when I realized that I was gonna do music, though.
Even though Zach didn't realize he was going to make music throughout his life at the time, he was obsessed with listening throughout his younger years.
God, I used to listen to tapes all the time, so I can't even remember.
It was just kind of there.
Yeah, it was always there.
Like the key word love wasn't there, it was there, and it was, now you look back and you know you loved it, but at the time.
Yes. And I didn't become addicted to it till like high school, I want to say. But there was times I don't know. Sometimes I would listen to the Walkman, just when we were taking day trips, like driving around, like doing errands with my parents, or we were taking long trips, so I'd have nothing but my headphones on.
When asking about falling in love with metal, he said it didn't happen until he was a preteen. Although,
I've always appreciated it, that's for sure. Like the chaotic sound.
When asking about which metal band first brought him that falling,
it probably started with Marilyn Manson. Like Smells Like Children, when that came out. Sweet Dreams. Like the video fascinated me. I was intrigued. I even liked that sound of the wah pedal, so I think that was the beginning for me.
Zach claims his neighbors were a big part in that falling as well.
What made me an avid listener, though, was my neighbors across the street. They would always listen to Metallica and any like new metal, and that's what got me into Static X. Like, I feel like that was the first band I fell in love with and wanted to be like. That's what made me pick up a guitar. That and Metallica, Slipknot. Gosh, and same with the vocals too. Like, I always wanted to do stuff like that, which I kind of did.
Zach moved to Japan at age 12. His dad was in the Marines, and the military relocated his family overseas. That's where Zach got his guitar from his mother as a gift, and his love for music only grew and became more diverse.
I listened to all music, basically, mostly metal. Like, those were the CDs I'd collect. Mm-hmm. And there was some punk rock in there too, and just depended on who I hung out with. Like, they would let me borrow their CDs, I'd let them borrow mine, and that's how the mishmash kind of happened. So still watching MTV. Like, when I first moved there, though, we didn't have MTV or cable, because we lived off base and it was nothing but Japanese channels, and the one like Air Force channel that showed some American shows, like the most popular, like Malcolm in the Middle or something. But once we moved on base, that's when like there was like a rebirth in music. Like Daft Punk was coming out with Discovery, and then the White Stripes were hitting the scene, making their mark, like shaking things up with what people consumed. And it's hard to take all that at once, so I didn't listen to one specifically, except for metal, because there's something about guitar solos and the energy of it that kept me going.
It was in Japan that Zach joined his first band.
Or I didn't join my first band until freshman year of high school. And we were called Tenebrous Portrait, and we'd cover a lot of songs like Weezer and Slayer, Ozzy. Anything that we were in the mood to cover, we'd just do it. And then, we even made some original music.
Zach felt he had a lot of fun with his first band, in which they usually played at a teen center.
Yeah, usually the teen center, we'd play a show every month or 2 months. And everybody would get excited for it. Like our little circle and people they know. Like they'd always come to the shows and look forward to it. And then we'd try to learn new songs before that. And try to write new songs. But I think we only had like 4 original songs. It kind of had an alternative metal feel. Like we loved experimenting, that's for sure. You're like, hey, we should throw in this like gothic style guitar solo. I think that's why we called ourselves Tenebrous Portrait, because we were influenced by The Crow and Brandon Lee. I don't know.
Wanting something more and original, Zach decided to disband from his first project.
And then what made me start my own band, I was getting tired of playing like commercial sounding covers or whatever. It's like, we should play more metal. Like, what do we do? Why are we playing Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit? We could be writing our own stuff and playing, I don't know. I was hard into thrash, so I formed a band called Genghis Khan. But in between that, or during, I was in another band called Merciful Widows, and that was just a bunch of our friends messing around, like trying to make the loudest music possible. It was great. I miss those guys.
After leaving, Zach created a new metal project called Genghis Khan.
I feel like Genghis Khan was like my baby, but there was, I don't know, like I felt like the rest of the band didn't want to hang out with me, like near the end of it, so we didn't break up or anything until I moved. So
Genghis Khan was short-lived, but Zach still misses a lot about Japan's music scene, including the shows.
I miss playing the shows. Like, people went to more shows, I feel. Like, they went out of their way to see the music only and not just, like, go to a bar or anything, because we didn't play at any bars.
I also asked Zach to compare the music scene in Japan to America.
I feel like in Japan, they are really strict on themselves, and that makes them more passionate performers, you know? Versus the US, it's mostly what I've seen here. Like, it's just people messing around until something comes out of it. But I don't know, that's I saw like the tip of the iceberg in Japan. Like, it was mostly new metal bands or like hip hop influenced metal bands where they'd have a DJ, kind of like Limp Bizkit. I guess Limp Bizkit and Deftones were popular. And yeah, at that time, like 2006.
After graduating high school, his family was then moved to South Dakota, where he met Michael Teal, who was the lead singer of a band called Source of Solace.
Well, I met the singer. It's his baby. Um, I was, gosh, what was I doing at the time? I was living at my dad's house. I met this girl on VampireFreaks.com, of all places, and we started hooking up and stuff. And I needed to ride spearfish a lot because I lived in Rapid City, and she lived at the college, and I'd sneak into her dorms. But she partied with this one dude who was trying to start a project. His name is Michael Teal. Shout out to him. We started jamming. Like we were just partying at first, and then I mentioned the fact that I play guitar, just kind of modestly. Like, yeah, I play. He's like, you play? That's cool, man. So he's like, come over tomorrow. Let's jam. And then I was like, okay. And we made 2 songs, I think. And that kind of grew. We started getting more members involved, like his friends. Basically, me and him started jamming, only me and him. And this is when he lived in Deadwood. And I was just fascinated with Deadwood. Like I liked playing with him because it gave me a chance to write my own material. But like it wasn't a style that I was like set out to do. Like he was more into like Shinedown and stuff, like alternative. But we still met up sometime. Like we were big Ice Cube fans, but we didn't play hip hop, you know. But anyway, I had to move because I ended up. This was we continued this until I went to college, and then I dropped out of college and moved to Virginia. Just dipped out of nowhere to stay with my mom because I wasn't doing well out here. And then 6 months later, I get a call from Michael Teal. He's like, "Hey, I got this band I started. Like, we already have 2 guitar players, but we need a 3rd guitar player." I'm like, "What? Are you serious?" And I was like, "This is my ticket out. Like, I can." He's like, "Come live with me. Like, we'll have a band. We'll party. I'll get you a job out here," which was like CNA work, which was awesome. But like, I met some great people in that band. Like my man Christian on bass. At first, he didn't want me to join the band. Like he didn't know anything about me. He's like, "We're getting a 3rd. What? This is dumb, you know." And then he's like, "We don't have enough room for him." And then once we started jamming, like by the end of the day, he was like, "Okay, we're kicking one of you other 2 out." That's what he told me recently, actually. I didn't know this until the other week when I ran into him again. But
After Zach's time in Source of Solace,
yeah, then comes Spook.e.lectiv. My man, Kale Mowry and Gene Cuesta.
meeting Gene was an interesting experience for Zach.
I ran into Gene at a Walmart because I was wearing a Mars Volta shirt, and he looked like Elliot from E.T. because he had a gray hoodie on. He was just like walking behind me, like, and he was like looking at me like this, and I was just trying to get toilet paper, and as soon as I get the toilet paper, I walk away. Then he runs around, I think, and meets me again, and he's like, "Hey, I like your shirt, Nocturnicate. That's freaking sick, bro."
Later on, Gene came into Zach's work.
I was like, Okay. I was playing with this dude, Kale Mowry, and we needed a drummer. And he said, I play drums, I play guitar too. Like, we could jam on guitar. And I was like, well, we already have guitars or whatever. And yeah. But basically, I just wanted to see what it would sound like if he played drums. And at our first practice slash, I guess it was a jam session. But to me and Kale, it was a practice. But he didn't know that we were planning on starting a band. And yeah, we kind of forced him into it, I feel. And I feel bad, Gene, but it was freaking insane. Like the stuff we were doing, like I wasn't doing that in the past. Like it felt like an evolution of sound for me. Like I was experimenting a lot and of different sounds, basically. And I even got to play some of Gene's guitar pedals, which I'm thankful for.
It wasn't soon after that Zach and Spook.e.lectiv decided to make an album.
And then we made an album. After playing a couple gigs, we were like, let's record an album of this, man. I was on a writing streak, like writing riffs, and so was Kale. And even Gene, he wrote some stuff too. He wrote some hooks here and there and made the craziest drum beats over these things. He still is a sonic player.
I asked Zach what the album meant to him now.
It was a bridge between myself then and myself now as an artist, I guess.
Zach feels that Spook.e.lectiv had a positive impact on his music career.
That just added, like Spook.e.lectiv added a lot of jazz in my influence and a cleaner sound. Because back then I just wanted to play like dirty, and now I feel like I've cleaned up and people appreciate it more because I felt like a nuisance back in the day. Like nobody wanted to hear.
When asking Zach about Spook.e.lectiv's sound,
like loud. I mean, there were people that wanted to hear it. That it just wasn't for everybody, and I feel like with Spook.e.lectiv, we let people like we made people accept like both, because we played. It was a combination of like punk and kind of soul hip hop, like soul influence hip hop.
Though Spook.e.lectiv had such a positive impact for Zach, it didn't last more than a couple years.
Our friends started moving, like people that were in the band, and it was just down to me and Kale again. And Kale wanted to go a different route than what I was planning on doing. So, yeah, I know it's deeper than that, but that's all I wanted to share about that bridge.
I asked what made him transition from rock and metal to hip hop.
Once we started covering like Tyler the Creator, and we covered Black Jungle Squad, my favorite like underground hip hop group, like doing that live like gave me a different feeling that I've been craving it ever since. And I started I don't know, I started doing hip hop with Spook.e.lectiv, but it was experimental because I'd write these little loops. I had a looper, like a loop pedal, that only recorded, I want to say 30 seconds or 20 seconds, but you can layer over it. And I was like, what if somebody rapped over this? And that's how songs like Habanero Bong Rip, those riffs, like layering that stuff and like picturing Wu-Tang. So that's what made me write the song Cholo too. just experimenting. And yeah, once I wanted to keep it guitar and vocals only, but once we started covering those songs and I started to hear like different things that you can't get with the guitar.
A few things come to Zach's mind about the differences in making hip-hop versus metal.
Relying on myself only. A lot of the vocals, like, I want to not only rap, like, I like to croon sometimes. And
when asking Zach what he wants from his upcoming album,
I want people to lose their mind to this record. There's so many different sounds, and I hope one, kind of like with the Spook.e.lectiv album, like I hope one of those sounds caters to them a lot, and then the rest they can just like sit back and say what's going on. Like, I like making music that trips people out, makes people think.
When asking Zach about what he wants in his music career,
what I see in the future for me, for real, is putting out an album that people can hold in their hand. Like, I don't care about a Grammy. And a music video. The music video would be nice. I want to give the listener an experience. And I want them to come back. I want them to crave going to the shows too, because that's my passion. Besides experimenting, is performing.
When asking Zach about what currently influences him,
currently it is the people I'm surrounded by. That when I go to make music, after hearing music, it doesn't help. But when I hang out with people, I start to get these little jingles in my head. I'm like, hey, that's where I get the energy, is through other people.
I asked Zach what his advice to other artists would be.
Because music's supposed to be fun, it's not supposed to be a job. Like, you can make it a job, I guess, but at the end of the day, I know it sounds cliche, you do it for yourself.
As a final question, I asked Zach what he thinks Anthony Fantano, popular music reviewer, would give his new album once completed.
Probably a 3. Right now, what I'm seeing is a 3. I hope it changes, and I'm praying for a miracle. Because I am having trouble. My biggest trouble right now is getting the vocals to sound great. And just please be patient with this record. It's a learning experience.
Sweet.